Alright guys, Epic fucking Slayers here, welcome back to a brand new Division video. So as you know by now, the new 1.8 update will be coming out in a short while, and we did learn about a new PvP mode called Skirmish, which is effectively team deathmatch in the Division, and that's going to be absolutely awesome. I thought it would be a good idea to release a video about what build to run in the new Skirmish PvP mode. It is focused around killing as many people as you possibly can, and that's what this build is going to do for you. This is possibly the best DPS and killing build in the game right now, and it will be in 1.8 as well. Before we get into this video, please don't forget to hit the like button. I'm looking for 1,000 likes on this video. That would be absolutely awesome. If you're not a patron at the moment, then head on over to my Patreon page. If you do want to support me outside of YouTube, subscribe if you are new and enjoy my content. This build itself is nothing new. You guys may have forgot about it simply due to the new classified stuff that's coming out, but this is the best build for PvP, hands down, so I hope you enjoy it. So guys, as you can see, this is a high-end build. Now in 1.7 this was by far the best build, and it still is the best build, not by far, but it's certainly still the best build, especially for PvP. So I'm going to quickly go over the build that I will be running in the Skirmish Team Deathmatch. And I will just mention that if there's any tweaks that I feel need to be made on the build, because this isn't min-max by any means, and there are some tweaks that could happen in this build. So we'll start off with the gun that I will be using. Now, I'm using an MP5 ST with responsive, deadly, and destructive. I'd actually prefer to have responsive, deadly, and unforgiving here, or possibly competent, maybe. I don't know, but probably unforgiving. I think that will be more beneficial than destructive. Unfortunately, destructive isn't as good anymore as it used to be, due to the fact that the armor valuations on players are a lot lower. Obviously at the moment most armor is around 35%, whereas it used to be about 60%, so you get much more value from destructive than you do now. Don't get me wrong, it's still not bad, it's just not as good as some of the other talents you could get, like competent for example. So that's the weapon I will be using. The reason I love using the MP5 so much is the mag size on this one, 67, 850 RPM, which is really good. It's just, it's as good as an M4 for example regarding RPM. Mag size I believe is a little bit higher, and the fact that you get so much crit as well on SMGs. Me personally, I'll be running an SMG rather than an assault rifle, and that's entirely up to you, to be honest guys. Depends on what you prefer. And the reason I like the MP5 so much is down to the fact that I can shoot for a lot longer than I could say, for example, like an MP7, which does a lot more sort of burst damage. So if I just go on to how I'm modding this, obviously I am modding this for crit damage because of the fact that I do get good crit chance on this particular build. So I'll just quickly, as you can see here, I'll quickly go over these. Mainly going for crit damage and crit chance where I can get it. On this PC I got reload speed and stability. Stability is not really that important, but reload speed is really good to have actually. Not that I will be reloading as much as some other people will be, it's just nice to have. And then we got rate of fire and crit chance on here. Possibly crit damage, rate of fire on here. I know there's a mag going at the moment, or a mod in this week's vendor reset, which has 120% mag size, 4% crit damage, and then we got rate of fire, I believe at 5.6. I may even whack that one on. So yeah, definitely go check that one out if you haven't already. So moving on to my secondary, and I'm using the M700 Carbon. To be honest, I probably won't be using this in the survival, sorry, not survival, in the new game mode, simply because I can't imagine there's going to be a lot of places where you get a lot of height. The maps are meant to be a lot smaller. It's going to be 4-on-4, it's going to be a lot more close combat. So what I probably will do is swap that out for something like my Super 90 here, which has got Adept, Deadly, and Fierce on it, which has got, obviously it's got good crit chance when I can proc Adept often, which on this build I can, but I have to be very good with the, I have to basically be on top of my skills. So it's quite difficult, but anyway, this Super 90 is actually really good. So I'd probably use this instead, because you're going to be getting a lot of close quarter battles. You're going to want burst DPS, which you could, to be fair, you could either use the MP7 or the MP5 here. MP5 is good because you can take out more than one enemy with one mag. The MP7 you can't really, but you can burst someone down a lot quicker. So that's personal preference. I'm personally probably going to go for the MP5. If I find out that actually I need to finish people a lot quicker, then I'm going to resort over to this wonderful MP7, which I have on here, and I've done a few videos on this MP7. Deadly, responsive, unforgiving, God roll MP7, absolutely awesome. So if you check out my main stats here, firearms are just over 6,000, toughness just under 4,000, or stamina, sorry, just under 4,000, and then electronics almost at 5,000. That's kind of where I'd want to be. The only change possibly would be having my stamina lowered by 1,000 and then having my firearms higher by 1,000. And I'll basically go over that when I go over my build with you guys. So starting off with the vest, I'm going for Vigorous here. Now there's loads of pieces you could have here. That's the beauty of the high-end build. You could possibly run with something like Rapid, give you that 50% decrease in heals. You could run with something like Reckless if you really want to do a lot of damage quickly, but then of course you take that extra 10%. I've gone for Vigorous because my skill power is pretty good, and as you'll see here, it actually works well with this build. I get a good overheal even when I'm running one of my booster shots. So the actual mods itself, I'm running electronics mods on these with skill haste. I want to try and get as much skill haste as I can, and that will be a feature in this build, and I'll show you where I need it, where I don't currently. So moving on to the mask, it's a really good mask. Look at the armor roll on that, 1001. I think that's as high as you can get it. Electronics is pretty good, got refreshed, and skill power refreshed is absolutely amazing in that last half segment when you really need that heal, if it works. That is, and there's no delay. If it works and you get that extra 30% on top of what I already have as a good healer anyway. And of course, this one is modded. Oh, actually, this one's modded firearms and skill haste. The reason why is that I actually felt that when my electronics were over 5,000 and my firearms were just under 6,000, it really didn't add any benefit in regards to the heal, but it did add benefit this way round for my firearms. So that's why I've actually got firearms mod on with skill haste for this particular piece. Now, this is the major change I would make to this. At the moment, I'm running accomplished knee pads, and that's simply because I have no classified knee pads that I want to actually change here or put here. I would personally either run short bow. Don't really like short bow very much, and I hate people to use it against me, so I try not to use it against anyone else. And I don't have the piece, which is the main reason, to be honest. I'd probably rather run a classified piece here, which gives you that higher... if I go to one of these pieces, for example, let's have a look at this one. So these Deadeye position embraces, I don't really want to roll these for this build, but I'd have this rolled to firearms, and I'd have it up to the maximum, almost 1,400, which you're not going to get on a normal high-end piece, because basically I'm getting no benefit here from accomplished. So if I can use, say, a classified piece which has higher main stat rolls and just better in general, then I will use that there, and that's what I'd recommend you guys doing. Electronics mod, and as you'll see, my first performance mod here is first aid self heal, and I actually use that on all of that, so I'm getting an extra, what, 24% there, plus I'm getting 30% from my mask. I get a lot of heal. I do overheal pretty good with this build. Moving on to the backpack, I've got a specialized backpack here. As always, we've got health on this, and we've got burn resistance. Burn resistance is really good. I'd probably keep that there, although shock resistance, I think at this present time, is more important, because shock for me feels as though it's a little bit broken, to be honest. It does feel as though with shock grenades and shock turrets, by the way, on console at the moment, are all over the place. They're being used so much, and I think the reason why is because you are under that shock effect for like 5 seconds, and you've got no chance at that point. You really haven't. So moving on to the Skull MC gloves, the crux of this build, and the best gloves in the game. Crit chance, crit damage, SMG damage. The only change I would make here is I would remove the crit chance for skill haste, but apart from that, this is actually like the best you can get. And actually, saying that, as I said before, I'd probably actually change the main stat of stamina to firearms. That means my toughness will be a lot lower, but obviously I'm going to be getting that heal, so stamina is not important unless they change it in 1.8. Stamina is not important at the game, really, at the moment. You're not going to feel any change between 2,800 stamina to 3,800, not really, but you are going to feel a difference in regards to either electronics or firearms. So me personally, I'd roll this to firearms, and I'd roll away crit chance for skill haste. If that's what you guys are wanting to know here, that's what I would do with this build. And at the moment, I can't actually do that. So moving on to my nimble holster here, you could run in something like Colonel Bliss's holster, which I do have down here. But for me personally, I never use my sidearm, and I never actually think about using this talent. If you can use the talent, then do it, because it gives you that extra damage. But for me personally, I run nimble. It still works. It's not as good as it used to be, but it's still good. It's got pretty good rolls, and I've got crit chance on here. Again, you could run skill haste on here. Sometimes I do, to be honest, because actually I don't really need that 3.5% crit chance. The crit on this build is good anyway. So actually, I'd probably roll that away, have skill haste, and it just means I can get my heal and my pulse back a lot quicker. So moving on to my abilities, I am using standard Scrambler Pulse here, and as you can see, we're getting 16% crit chance. That actually puts my crit chance up at around 54% on this build when my pulse goes off, and I'm getting extra 60% crit damage. My cooldown is 32.7. If you really wanted to make sure, say for example you're using like an M4, or you're using something which has got a depth and you need to proc it more often, then one great way of doing it is just moving on to the recon pack. Yeah, you're not going to get the benefits of Scrambler, but with this, as you can see, this cooldown is 8 seconds quicker. Massive. And also you actually get more crit chance and more crit damage with this. So it's entirely up to you, to be honest. What I would probably do is test out in the game. If the other team are using pulses a lot, then I'd probably use Scrambler. But if they're not, then I would use Recon Pack. You get more damage from it, which is cool, and you get your cooldown quicker. So yeah, that's just a pro tip for you there. Moving on to the booster shot, as I said, with this one I am getting 109,000 for myself here, which is pretty good. If I really want a great overheal though, I could use Overdose, 182,000, but most of the time I use booster shot. Just as I get into my last health segment, it actually gets me up to full health, and it overheals a little bit. So yeah, it's really good, 32.7% cooldown. And then lastly, moving on to my talents here, I am running critical save, which I think is very important. Of course, we got strike back, meaning that when I get to low health, my actual cooldowns come down quicker, which is great. I actually use tack advance a lot. Gives you that extra damage, and I think that's going to be really important, of course, in the new Skirmish PvP mode, where you are trying to kill people as quickly as you possibly can and trying to stay alive, of course, yourself. And then lastly, we've got On the Move, which again is really good. So there you go, guys. That's the build I'm going to be running. It's nothing new. I'm pretty sure you guys have seen this build 1,000 times. But to be honest, a lot of people are forgetting about this build, or this high-end build, due to classifieds and due to the fact that we got Ninja Bike. Don't get me wrong, Ninja Bike is fucking awesome. But 3-piece Predator, you know, 2-piece Banshee is not better than a high-end build. Unfortunately, it's not better for damage. It's not better for anything. This is the best build in the game for PvP by far. Well, not by far, actually. It used to be by far. It still is the best. Not by far, but it still is the best. So there you go, guys. Hope you did enjoy this one. I've got a little bit of footage of using this build in some Last Stand. I hope you did enjoy this one again, and I'll see you next time. Peace.
Alpha has gone neutral.